there, call the meeting to order. If you would, please stand for the prayer and pledge. Dr. Dawn.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for your presence as we gather here today as a Board of Education. Please guide us, help us to make the best decisions for the education of the young people of Monroe County, and to remember that it is always our duty to advocate for those children. We thank you for the many blessings you bestowed upon us, and we thank you for your guidance as we go about your work. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Y'all all seen the agenda, look for approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor? Unanimous. All right, we got some recognition. Dr. Finch, if you like.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. June is typically a month where we recognize what we call a friend of education, and our board has been doing that for several years now. And you can tell that we have our plaque up here where we have the little nameplates that go there. And June, sometimes December, but typically June of every year is when we want to recognize a friend of education. And I'll call Miss Alicia Elder to the podium, and she will go through our honoree for tonight.
All right, good evening. This evening, it is my pleasure to honor a man whose name is synonymous with school spirit, service, and community leadership. He is a true friend of education for Monroe County Schools. Mr. Keith Edge, if you'll come down, please. A 1978 graduate of Mary Parsons High School and 3 sport letterman, Mr. Edge's roots in Monroe County Schools run deep. As a standout athlete in football, basketball, and tennis, he showed early on what it meant to lead with passion and integrity. Since then, Keith has poured that same energy into serving our students, schools, and families. As Monroe County's Recreation Director from 2013 to 2018, Keith oversaw a 46% increase in youth sports registration in his first year alone. He expanded programming, introduced pickleball at the youth center, and created the Monroe Champions Baseball League, an inclusive program for children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities that earns statewide recognition and touched countless lives. He founded the MP Dogtown student section, energized school spirit, and helped bring student-athlete stories to life through the MP Sports Mike Broadcast Network. A longtime member and past president of the MP Touchdown Club and a charter member of the Forsyth Monroe County Sports Hall of Fame Committee, Mr. Edge has worked tirelessly to celebrate our community's athletic excellence. But his impact goes far beyond the field. From opening car doors at elementary schools to supporting Special Olympics, sponsoring sports teams, and serving on the Superintendent's Advisory Council, he has shown up for students in every way that matters. Mr. Edge, your unwavering support, joyful presence, and love for Monroe County Schools have made a lasting difference. It is our honor to recognize you today as our friend of education.
Thank you.
There's your certificate right there. Got it?
You know y'all gotta get together, right?
Come on, Lisa.
Oh.
Lisa, come over here.
Look at her smile, that kid's in the picture, do you?
No, I don't. And without my orange hat.
Orange hat. Gives Mike and
Yeah, we'll get some.
Celeste and one of
Okay.
them.
All right, here we go, big smiles. One more.
Let's do it.
Come on, family.
Oh. broadcast, I typically have a script and lay out pretty much everything we're gonna say. We got a book full of stats and everything about married person sports. Tonight I have none of that. So I'm speaking from the heart. I wanna thank the Monroe County Board of Education for this recognition. I'm humble, I'm very humble, but I'm just a servant of God. I'm just an instrument. I'm his hands and feet, and I just wanna glorify him and honor him in everything I do. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
We got some consent items, Dr. Finch.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we have some field trip and fundraiser requests that you can see in your handouts and your packets. And you can see the fundraiser requests that are also there, starting to get a little bit more, getting in over the summer, and folks are getting ready for next school year, and you can see what those descriptions are, what the funds are being used for, and the beginning and end dates. And then we had two board meetings last month. One was a regularly called board meeting on May 13th, or excuse me, the regularly scheduled board meeting for May 13th. And then there was a called board meeting for May 29th.
I move to approve the field trip request, the fundraiser request, and both sets of minutes.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Finch.
Next, we have the superintendent's report, and for our June board meeting, we have Ms. Carrie Buckendale here. She's gonna step out from behind the camera and actually get in front of the camera. And she is our communications director and also our Fine Arts Center director. And she is gonna give a report on all activities related to the Fine Arts Center.
Y'all know I much prefer being behind the camera, right? But it's been another great year at the Fine Arts Center. As you know, because I've seen y'all at various events, the arts are absolutely thriving in Monroe County. We have an unbelievable wealth of talent with our kids, our teachers, and our community members that we really get to highlight all year long, which is so much fun. Use of the Monroe County Fine Arts Center has increased by nearly 16% during the 2024-2025 school year. Now, y'all remember last year I gave you some numbers that were pretty surprising, and so we've gone up even higher since then. We do continue to draw the interest of state, regional, and local organizations because of our prime location and the beautiful building. They love to come visit us and have their meetings. So let's take a look. In 2024-2025, student events. We had 81 student performances, ceremonies, and special events. We had 85 student rehearsals and planning meetings. And you can see a couple of those events right there with Big Fish and Newsies Jr., The Little Mermaid Jr. We had a great time this year. In addition, on the staff side, we had our annual Monroe County Schools Recruitment Fair, which was a big success. 7 staff development days. We had 5 BOE meetings start in the auditorium right next door, and that's a shot of our fabulous Mary Person staff at that staff recruitment day. And the community, we love to bring in the community. During the fiscal year, we had 2 professional concerts. Now, you remember we did have Young Elvis, but technically that was before the start of the fiscal year. So, for those 2, we had the Ray Howard Band and Celtic Angels. We hosted the Forsythia Festival Food Truck Frenzy. We brought in the Rose Theater for rehearsals and performances after that devastating fire downtown. We hosted the Leadership Monroe Tour, and we held a Sports Hall of Fame fundraiser featuring the debut of a documentary. It was a really big night. Lots of neat memorabilia sitting around. People from all over the area came. It was a real good time. We doubled our rentals this year, which is pretty incredible. We have had 5 dance recitals plus rehearsals. We've had a competition dance rehearsal. We had our very first Solid Rock Athletic Showcase. We hosted the annual American Legion State Oratorical Competition again, and we've already booked it again for next year. They love coming here. A lot of stuff going on. So you see, all of that brings money into the Fine Arts Center to then put it into the hands of the students through technology. And that's not all. I told you the state likes to come, the region likes to come. So we hosted the 6A State One-Act Play Competition. We had more than 600 people competing in attendance. Students, teachers, what have you, plus some of their families came too. We were able to partner with the swag bags for the judges and to support the people that would be in town, let them know where food was, where shopping was, so it could be a big local day. We have had 4 Bright from the Start meetings, 4 RESA executive director meetings, a CTAE budget workshop, a special education directors meeting, the Middle Georgia Parent Mentors held a meeting, the GHSA held officials training last year, and they've already booked one again for this year, and that utilizes the Fine Arts Center, the auditorium, and Mary Persons. So they're gonna do that again this year. We had the GFFCA Coaches Clinic. We hosted a Family Connection meeting, and I ran out of room on the slide, but we also had a State Board of Education hearing. So we've had a lot of stuff going on. Were you keeping track? You done the math? We've had 222 total events at the Monroe County Fine Arts Center this year. Now, keep in mind, there are 180 days in the school year, so you can see we are really using this facility as much as possible. You can see some more of our fun shows we had this year, Beauty and the Beast Jr. and Winnie the Pooh Jr. So what was new this year? I'm really excited about this first one. We installed a new light board and 14 new front lights along the catwalk. We started to lose some lights last year to power supply issues. Turns out, you can't get the parts to fix them. We sent one off for repair last May, we didn't get it back till this May. So we replaced the 14, got a state-of-the-art light board that's the same kind used at local schools around the area and some of the colleges. So kids can learn how to do it here. And then if they go to Gordon, where we know they have one there, it's the same board. And it's much more user-friendly than the one we had before, so we actually had students using it this year. Our Hubbard Elementary kids got up there and got to run the lights for their show. We had some middle school students using it, some high school students using it. It's been really fun to watch. And I've even learned how to use it, which is kind of scary when you think about it, but if I can work it, pretty much anyone can. Other new things this year. We kind of scaled back the elementary band concerts. We limited it to 5th grade because it had gotten so big. And it turns out it was a really good move because it was still huge. And by just having 5th grade, we were able to highlight more soloists and really show the parents what they've learned in the classroom. It's been a lot of fun. Our Mary Persons High School play moved to May. We did that to give them a little bit more time to work on the show, because if you've ever had a student in the program or a grand student in the program, you know that they've got literary competition, they've got LGPE competitions, they've got concerts, they've got all the things plus schoolwork. So giving them one extra week really helped. And then the middle school has added a fall and spring drama showcase to highlight what their students are doing. So we just keep adding more. And on that vein, coming up in 2025-2026, we are hosting our very first bodybuilding competition in July. Now, I'm learning a lot about this one. I don't know anything about it, but it is a rental, and it's open to a lot of people. There are 56 categories that people can compete in that day. So that one's gonna be a big deal. It's got a Christmas in July theme to try to help raise some presents and some money for children in need for Christmas. Our 3rd grade Christmas concert. If you've been to it recently, you know it grew to the point where we couldn't fit the kids on the stage. So then we broke it up into 2 nights. But we wanted to have all 3 schools represented both nights. Got a little confusing, figuring out which homeroom went on which night. So this year we are actually sending that one back to the schools. So they will have that in conjunction with their other Christmas events at the schools. We are gonna have 3 drama or musical performances by Mary Persons Theater this year, with a 4th one at the school, because they want to experiment with theater in the round, which is something I can't do. So they're gonna do one over there. And because of the huge growth and the unbelievable community support, the Best Buddies Talent Show is coming to the Fine Arts Center next year. It has outgrown the auditorium, which is really exciting, and you can see some of the kids from that performance. So let's talk about some numbers. We like numbers. The 2025 concert series has sold the most tickets of any concert series since we opened. We have 150 season ticket holders this year, bringing in $15,000. Our 2024 concert series turned a profit of more than $23,000. It's the first time that's happened. And we have brought in almost $20,000 in rental fees this year. So that money is what's used to do things like the new lights and the new light board, because we had it in the account ready to go. So that's why these things are important. I didn't have to come to y'all and ask for money, because nobody wants that. So we were able to get all that new equipment and still have some money in the bank. It's pretty exciting stuff. Now, in addition to this, You have in Assembly a list of, kind of a one-sheeter of some of the highlights, so that if your constituents have any questions, you can easily reference it. You also have a sneak peek at next year's calendar. Give you a hint, it's already full. We are excited. We have booked all the way out through June of next year. All public events have already been added to our digital website and to our app, so if you wanna know when the middle school band concert is next year, you can already see it online right now. What questions do you have for me?
Any questions for Ms. Buckendale?
Looks good, and the money line looks good, so congratulations on that and turning a profit in the Fine Arts Center. That's excellent, that's impressive.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Carrie.
Absolutely impressive is the money line is how much the community enjoyed it.
It's incredible to see them coming through the door and stopping to look at the artwork that might be on display or talking to the kids after the shows. It's just really something special.
Good job.
Thank you.
Next thing up is, let's see, public participation. Have anyone sign up for that?
Everybody stand up.
So let's look at the,
Next one is the,
now we have the FY '26 budget public hearing. Did you say we had somebody sign up?
I signed up outside.
oh, you
That's
did.
for the public. He wants
That's for the public
But-
hearing.
For the
Yes.
budget hearing?
No, I mean, I signed up to speak. I mean, I don't know which side is
For
on.
the budget.
Yeah, I think it's for the budget, that's what we're gonna do right here, yeah.
Okay.
You didn't want to talk about the budget, correct? Or something else?
I don't talk about budget.
All right, you got it. Yes, sir, that's what we're going into now, so, actually,
Is that part of the taxes?
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, well, that's what we're here for, so, sir, would you like to start?
Right.
Come on right up. Yes, up to the microphone. If you would, state your name and your address so we know where you are as a constituent.
Good afternoon. My name is Marion McMillan, Jr., and I live at 830 Clopper Road in South Monroe County, Bolingbrook area. And about a week ago, I got a big surprise in the mail. Post taxes had doubled. I called my neighbors on Clopper Road, and they all had a similar experience. There was a large meeting down there in Bolingbrook area, one of the largest that ever attended. I was told between 115 and 150 people were there. And most people didn't like it at all. Then found out that, I think the commissioners had a meeting and rolled back the valuation till the 2024. And my question to you, is the school board going to roll back their valuations to 2024, or is yours set by the county?
The tax assessors, it's set by the tax assessor, so we don't set, all we do is set the millage rate.
Right, so,
So therefore, the value of all the properties is done strictly by the tax assessors.
okay, will the millage rate stay the same? This coming up, I think you gonna vote on it, this
Yes,
coming
sir.
up October?
I do not foresee us increasing, I do not see us increasing our millage rate.
Okay, and like most people, I don't pay that much attention to my taxes, I just pay them. But this year was different. And notice that the school board, or Monroe County School, majority of our taxes go to the school system,
Yes, sir.
okay? And a lot of people on my road are retired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm retired. They're on fixed income. And I noticed some counties, like Henry County, doesn't have, well, when you're 70 and above, they don't charge a tax for school, for school. Okay, have y'all considered doing that?
There are some things already set in place. If you, I think we gotta, I'm gonna go ahead and call them out. Our county commissioners in the room over here, Mr. Eddie Rowland. Good to see you, sir. I will say this, there are some relief at the tax assessor's office, at the county office, that you can look into. A lot of people don't look into it.
I look
Are you a
into it.
veteran?
Right, I said, the criteria for that,
There are criteria, there is some
okay,
criteria.
you have to be poor as a titmouse,
Yes, sir.
okay? And to qualify, but I just checked in Henry County, got a friend of mine lives up there, theirs is just a straight 70 and above. There's no
Okay.
other criteria. I have paid, I looked at it last night, between $50,000 and $60,000 just in school taxes here in Monroe County. I don't have any kids going to Monroe County schools.
Yes, sir.
Never had any kids go to Monroe County schools. And I understand the importance of Monroe County schools for industry and that sort of thing. And I'm glad to see that the graduation rate for married persons is going up about 93, 94%.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's my spiel on this, and we're going to see what's going to happen going forward. I understand y'all want to, got some big ideas proposed to spend $130, $140 million for new schools and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know how that's gonna go based on the folks in my area. Okay, thank you for your time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come right on up, please.
Good afternoon.
Name and address.
My name is Yvonne McGee. I'm at 259 Watson Road. And I'm about the same thing about the school taxes. I'm over 70, I'm a fixed income, and my taxes went up, it tripled. It went from 2 to 8. That's a lot of money coming from one person. And everybody in my neighborhood, taxes went up. Most of them said their taxes went up over 100%, which is uncalled for. So what we need to know, what I need to know is it gonna come down, or what do we need to do? Because from 200 to 800, that's a lot of money. And I can't afford it. So, and I ain't gonna lose my house either.
Ma'am.
So I need to know, what are we gonna do? What can we do?
I don't see this board raising our millage rate this fiscal year, or hopefully I don't see it raising in the future, okay? I don't see that. I don't think any of us are willing to raise it for any reason as of now. Our millage rate's gonna stay the same. I know, like I said, that tax assessors are the ones that are controlling the evaluations of property. So that's where the increase had come from. It did not come from a millage increase, which is your school board can tax our citizens for the services that the school system provides to the community, which that's set, and the county commissioners do the same thing. Neither entity has raised their millage rate. So the increase that on our taxes that we all saw and received is strictly from the assessed property.
So it went with how the property, about the property.
The value of your property. So if your property last year was $100,000, the tax assessor from the state, which is also a committee that goes out, they hire a company, goes out, they go around to all these properties, your property included, and they go out and look at it and say, it's $100,000 last year. Well, in today's time, it's $150,000. And then they tax you on that evaluation. Now, our millage rate did not change, and neither did the county commissioners or ours. So the increase is strictly from the evaluation of your property. The value of it went up.
Well, in my opinion, my value should have come down. I'm gonna tell you why.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it's a creek running through my property on the other side. And I've been asking them ever since 2018 to clean it out across the road. And now water's coming up in my yard. I mean, I can't even mow my lawn because my house, on the side of my house, it's a swamp now. And the beavers done came out there. So my property going up for the beavers,
Yes, ma'am.
because it ain't helping me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I really can't do that. So that's when I wanna know, how is the value going up when the beavers coming out there and everything else is coming out there?
So I would tell you on top of that, I think I personally emailed out the appeal form to some people that have reached out to me.
Well, I got up here to a farm, and I'm filling
Now,
out.
make sure, obviously, it has to be done within 45 days of you, of the receiving of that, or the mailing of that, your tax assessment, okay? So there is a time frame to it, but as of right now, I don't think you have to do any appeals since the county has, reverted that evaluation back from last year. So I don't think anyone has to do any appeals. I'm pretty sure that's correct, isn't that correct, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna let these people speak first and then
Yeah.
I'll let you. But yes, ma'am, and if your property, there's a problem with it, with water flow and things like that, I recommend you get with your county commissioner,
Well-
not just county commissioner, but the county manager, and let them know what kind of problems you're having, if it's overflow across the road or anything that's backing up.
I've been getting with them ever since 2018. I've been dealing with this, I've been going back and forth to them. I went to the water department, I called my commissioner, he never returned my call.
Which one is your commissioner?
I don't know, in District 4, I never seen him, I don't know who he is. But I mean,
Is he an ugly old white guy?
yeah.
Old
I
guy?
know that much. But, I mean, I've called him, and he never returned my call.
Yes, ma'am. Well, that's what we're gonna have to figure out who your commissioner is, and, I mean, if you don't get any answer, I'd be calling county manager, or go to the county commissioner meeting. You can freely speak and actually bring it out and open, and I'm sure they'd be glad to hear from you. I would.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because like I said, I've been complaining here since 2018 before it got this bad.
Yes, ma'am.
And no one, well, they come out and look at it and then they say, okay. But then they go back, and they come out again, after I go back and complain again,
Yes, ma'am.
they'll come back, then they'll say, well, the last time they said, well, it was the beaver. Well, the beaver didn't get there till y'all went stop, went open it up. But that's my
Well,
complaint.
if it's there at the road or a creek in an easement,
Yeah,
they can look at it and see if if they can assess and do something with it. They should be able to look at that and at least do that. So,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Terry Jackson. I live at 8859 Zebulon Road. I'm actually here for myself and on behalf of my mother, who lives at 89 Gilmore here in Forsyth. I did all the same thing everybody is saying, with the exception of looking at my tax bill. There's something in the calculation that causes the school money to be way higher
It's more. Mhm.
than the tax money. And going to the tax assessor office, you really get nowhere with it, because now, Eddie, listening to you, tax office, the county commissioners have nothing to do with the part of the tax I'm talking about. I too don't have any children. I have grandchildren, but no children in the school system, and each year the tax is going up. So, fixed income, retired, we're in the same boat. So I'm wondering, what is the calculation that causes the school tax to go so much higher than the land tax? So that's what we're dealing with. Our property is going up like everyone's else, but my mom's property has gone up to a point where the school tax is gonna be the overbearing part, where she paid tax, where she had been in a classification that she was paying none. She's 87. We look at her bills every month, and she needed help with the bills. So, me too, I asked, what type of calculation can the school board offer on their end to help us to see a better light with this? Can we get his homestead exemption from you all, or what? You know, some type of exemption
Right.
to bring that tax bill down or to stop it. I hear you saying you're not going up on the millage, but the millage I think we're talking about is what we just saw to come out on I don't know if it's already been set, but what we just saw come out in our bills a week or so ago.
The school millage rate is on your bill. I think the way it's worded, it looks like it's an increase in millage, and it's not. So it is an increase in value.
Right.
So the school millage rate is higher than the counties. The county's at 10, think it is. 212. Of course, the school system taking, account that school system is the biggest employer in Monroe County too. We have over 600 employees, and we're larger than Georgia Power, the plant share. We just have a lot of employees, and we are, some of it state funded, but, you know, we're gonna take care of our employees, and they provide a good service, and I think our product that we put out, that school system put out, which is our students, I'd say civilized, contributing people into our society, that's what we're paying for. And I do wanna pay for that personally, and I think we want to turn out good citizens, good valuable people that are gonna come back in and plug into the community and do those things. But I would like to see, we could probably talk about some relief later on about our older citizens, coming up with something for them. That's not out of the question, that has been talked about inside this board.
Awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Sarah Lopez, and I live at 9483 Zebulon Road. And I live on inherited property that I inherited from my grandfather. My mother has a house. She had a house on 8875 Zebulon Road, which she has passed away. The house is there, nobody's there. Okay, so I do pay the taxes on that house, but my problem is, at a certain age, I don't believe that everybody should have to pay the school taxes. I mean, I pay the school taxes, but on every piece of property that you own, even though it's an acre, 5, 10, 20 acres, every little piece of property that you own, you gotta pay that same school taxes. I think that when you get a certain age, that you pay one school tax. Cause see, I'm little, and I'm on a fixed income. But I gotta pay her taxes on her house, I gotta pay the taxes on my house. And I don't think it's fair. I'm 75 years old, you know, and I don't really believe that that something should be done for people that have multiple pieces of property that have to pay the same school taxes. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So what can we do about that?
It would be, I mean, we'll have to talk about, mainly specifically, I would look at the age requirement. There would have to be some stipulations to it. I know that, like I said, the county has some already. Kind of, not to share this, but I know of a couple, older couple. When I say older, older than that. They're in their 70s, veteran. They pay no property taxes on their property, but it's because of they meet the requirements on some things. Veteran, their income's a certain level. I know they don't have, I don't think they even have 3 acres of land. But
if you have more than three separate parcels of land.
yeah, well, that would be different.
Each parcel, you have to pay the same
Yes.
school tax.
Yes, ma'am. So every property throughout Monroe County will have the same millage rate assessment to it.
But if anything can be done for the people that are of a certain age that is on a fixed income?
We would have to look at that and see if the board can do something with that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
We have to
thank you.
talk about it. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone else? Mr. Eddie, would you like to come up and say anything?
Sure.
Why not?
Most of these folks are in my district, so I guess I better get up here.
I
and
think
talk.
you probably should.
Everybody says, Zebulon Road, Zebulon Road. Well, guess what? Last time I got in front of a microphone, I talked for 45 minutes. I'll try to
Please
make it
don't.
short.
Please.
I'm gonna try to address you guys, but they were the one, I kinda wanna address some of the questions that they have, or some of the concerns. I heard you talk about beavers, and just let me explain, anything that the county works on has to be county property. And I had this happen a lot. Beavers are down into private property, and we can't go on private property. Legally, we cannot go on private property to do anything to beavers. If they are up by the right of way or under a bridge, then we can do something about it. So that may be where you are, but I will be glad to talk with you later. I don't really wanna, I mean, I will be glad to have a dialogue with you. I know where you work, I can come see you. So, but we will certainly talk about that, but I wanted to make sure and make that clear. Senior taxes, actually, the chairman and I had a conversation about that as late as today. And I'm just gonna kind of bear my heart out to you. I have compassion for seniors. I have an 86-year-old father-in-law. I have an 86-year-old mother-in-law. The first 2 calls I got about taxes were from them. And they said, come down here and explain to me what in the world y'all are doing. So believe me, I caught it from them first. The second people I caught it from was my 28-year-old son. Would you come down here and explain to me what the heck you're doing? I said that to say this. Everybody is hurting, and we are all neighbors, and we are all paying too doggone much for insurance, for gas, for eggs, for taxes, for the counties and the schools are paying exorbitant amounts for things that we have to continue a school system, to continue a set of services for you. Our insurance in our county has gone up it will go up 30% this year. It is just crazy. And I have compassion for you as seniors, but I also have compassion for people that, like my son, that is 28 years old, and if it wasn't for his mom and dad helping him and their 3-year-old, I don't know that they'd make it either. So I said that to say this, everybody is in a real tough situation right now. Now let me tell you what Monroe County is trying to do. First thing, we recognize immediately that the tax assessors, which is an independent, we give the money to the tax assessors to operate, but that's about it. They are governed by the Department of Revenue, which says you will value property correctly. And there are fines and things that they can do to us that cost us more money if we don't value it correctly. Historically, they have not valued residential property that you and I live in since 2008. And you can read it in the paper. That's exactly what was quoted, and I was kind of shocked. They haven't valued commercial property in 10 years, and that was kind of shocking. But the good thing is, there's a bill that has come out, and we are part of this bill regardless, and that is that properties will be valued every 3 years. So you will not get this shock and awe anymore. And then there is another part of that bill that's coming out that says that the value of your property can increase over 3%, or over the CPI, which is usually around 2.5–3% per year. So those are things that are going to help you with these changes in your bill. The second thing is that we did freeze those taxes at last year's level. So while I want you to hold on to that number that you got the other day, and we don't care about all this other stuff, we care about what's at the bottom right-hand corner that says how much I'm gonna have to pay. That's what you need to be worried about. Keep that, look at your property. If there are things about your property that you say it is not worth the value that they have, which correlates to this number down here at the bottom right-hand corner, then talk to whoever you need to, or look on QPublic, or get one of your neighbors or your children to look on that, and try to determine, is your property really worth that or not? And if you have a reason for an appeal, please go and appeal to the tax assessors. They should look at your situation earnestly and should give you a fair evaluation. That is fair. I want everybody to have a fair evaluation based on what your property's worth. I really don't like ad valorem tax, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's the life that we live. But I'll tell you, the next thing that we're going to do is, hopefully we will pass that bill that will make sure that your taxes on your property don't increase beyond 3% in any given year. And you will have an opportunity, whether you choose to use it or not, and I'm not advocating to add a 1% sales tax, which will further reduce your millage rate on your property and further reduce your property taxes. Once we value commercial, right now we've got residential setting up here, we got commercial down here, and that's not right. We are going to value we are going to tell the tax assessors to value commercial up to here. Do I need to shut up?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. Commissioner, I was gonna tell you,
Yeah.
on a lot of that, of course, that floss you're talking about, that's specifically to the county, but on top of that, they don't have a need to do an appeal now since it's been frozen back to the previous year. Is that correct or not?
That's right. What you're gonna get in the tax bill, that bottom right-hand corner coming up, is not gonna be that shocking all that you got.
Yeah, that's fine. Cause we're gonna, I wanna kinda keep it, short timeframe. I know you got a lot to say and you got a lot of
I'm
good
sorry,
points.
yeah,
No,
I
you're
told
fine.
you, they didn't get a chance to tell me to shut up, and I was,
No, you're fine.
I was
No,
on
I
board.
appreciate you, no, I appreciate you elaborating too.
but
But
yeah.
a couple of these, folks here, I think they would definitely like to talk to you about in depth and on some details
Please do.
too.
Please
So,
do.
Good county commissioner, I think, and I think, you got some good.
And we ultimately have 3 projects that are coming that are gonna further lower our millage.
Right.
So
And
we got good things.
I'll tell you this, I mean, the county commissioner, budget and the school board budget is 2 totally different things, and they are funded 2 totally different ways also. County has a little bit different types of revenue they bring in. I kinda hate to say the government has revenue coming in, cause it's all taxpayers' money is what the revenue is, and we're supposed to be good stewards of that. So our income from the school is millage and East Blocks. And I know I made mention about, $100-some-odd thousand school going in, that's your East Blocks money. When you see this building, going up, the ninth grade campus and the college career, which, quite a few people are very excited about that, and the majority is, which is gonna serve our students very, very well. People want that, people need it, and the students need it, because we want these young people to go into the trades and have a good livelihood and be able to live in this county. Those funds is what, East Blocks is what pays for those buildings, so it's not coming out of your millage rate. Your millage rate funds that come out of your pocket mainly pay for the labor force and the taking care of the kids in the school system. That's primarily what it does. I think 90+% of our budget, which is your millage rate, pay for our labor force. Teachers, our good teachers, our staff, our custodians, and everybody that keeps the schools up and running, just so the kids can get an education, so we can turn out a good product. That's what we are paying for. And I'll put it to you this way, if we don't pay for our kids to have a good education, which is about $15,000 a student, we can pay $40,000 plus to have them in, they'll turn out in jail. I don't wanna see that. I don't wanna see them go another route, because if they don't get a good education, that's where they're gonna end up. You pay here, you pay it there. I wanna pay 15 grand a student, so we can turn out a very, very good product. That's what I'm aiming for. So,
Thank you,
thanks,
Chairman.
Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to talk about it on the public hearing? Well, thank y'all very much. All right, we're gonna look at the budget approval. Dr. Finch?
All right, Mr. Chairman, of course, we had to pivot on this a little bit because, the first digest that we were given, was valued at a certain, digest rate. And then, we were informed last week by the county commissioners that they were gonna be frozen, so we actually had to go and pivot. I'm not gonna steal all of Mr. Rapley's, thunder, but based on the tax digest numbers that we were initially given, we were looking somewhere around a surplus of 1.1 million, and was hoping to maybe add to fund balance and reserve funds. But now, when we're reverting back to the 2024 valuation, we're gonna be somewhere around 1.4 million in a deficit. And what we had done on the front end with the first initial evaluation was we were able to move some items, some expenditures, specifically transportation, technology, and textbook adoption. We were able to move those into the general budget. And what that does is it frees up the E-SPLOS budget to be focused on the 5-year facility plan. And that's capital outlay, and that's deferred maintenance, and that's, remodeling, and a lot of the things that, HVAC units that we have to replace right now. Unfortunately, we've had to put those expenditures back into the E-SPLOS budget now, taking them out of the general budget, because I think it had about, reverting back actually made it into about a $4 million hole, to be quite honest with you, okay? So, that's how big of a change it is to go from the full digest of which everyone's property values went up. Of course, everyone was upset about it. Mine went up over, 17% last year, and it's gone up over 33% this year. And so, it's almost doubled in value. And, so I'm not immune from it either, and I don't think any of the board members are immune from it either. So it actually goes on, and so nobody ever really likes to open up that bill and see how much it is down there. And honestly, yes, it's gonna cost more on the school tax side than it is the county tax side, just simply because of the size of the millage rate. And our millage rate is 16.212. The county's is about 10, but they're only gonna run anywhere between a $28 and $30 million budget, and we run about a $68 million budget. And so it's a little bit more on our end, obviously. So, Mr. Rackley, if you wanna, I've probably stolen all of your thunder. That's basically the long and short of it. But we have to have a balanced budget, and the only way that we're gonna be able to balance it is gonna have to, we're gonna have to go into our fund balance, which y'all have already seen that we've gotten down as low as 0.39 months. Fortunately, though, I think we were able to actually add some value to our fund balance this year.
Yes, sir.
And some of that is some unexpected tax revenue here and there that we did not budget for. And so, Mr. Rackley, whatever holes and gaps I let left up
How about
everybody.
this, Dr. Finch? I'll just run through this.
Okay.
Y'all are educated on this. We've discussed it quite a bit. Normally, at this point, we would really just be asking for you, the administration recommends the approval of the FY26 budget, okay? But just since we had to make a change to it, we just wanted to go through and just share those with you. As you see there in your notebook, we put both the tentative budget that you approved back in May, as well as the amended budget, okay? And I'll just I'm gonna take just a few seconds on these slides. Basically, here's what was added originally. That was the reassessment of existing real property. It was roughly $258 million. That adds about $258,000 per meal, okay, is what happens there at 16.212. There's the number that Dr. Finch mentioned. So rather than thinking you're gonna receive about $4 million additional to our local tax budget, which is what we built the budget with, now you really have a reduction of that amount from what you had planned on. Dr. Finch already did a great job talking about this. This is just updates to the original budget. The only thing that you see in those 18 pages there that have changed at all, that we were able to do, is we just moved the items that we had discussed last month with you, that we were moving from the E-SPLOS, we were moving on to the general M&O budget. And the reason we were doing that is because we know we have a 5-year facility plan where we were gonna need to service debt, as well as address deferred maintenance that we discussed that we need to do in the county. So what we were doing is we were moving that money off of there onto the our general M&O. What we've done is we've just taken that and moved it back to SPLOS, okay? So that equaled $1.84 million. As Dr. Finch mentioned, and you can see if you have your budget pulled in front of you, the one that you saw last month, there was a surplus in that last line down there of $1.187,799.89. So $1,187,799. With that, we could have added, as Dr. Finch mentioned, it could have gone back into the fund balance, or it could have been about a 0.5% potential millage reduction, depending on what was decided. If you'll notice in the updated budget, it is now zeroed at the bottom because you can't actually run it in a deficit. And you'll see at the top, and I'll
And hold on
flip
just
to
a
it.
second, and that's almost what, a $2.4 million swing.
Just there, on top of
Just
the
on that.
1.85 million that we moved off of it.
That's right.
So I'll just move ahead to this and show you, here's the fund balance that's needed, and y'all have that in front of you, the 1,197,211. Okay, that's why you see that the revenues and expenditures are the same, because revenues and expenditures have to be the same, okay? And so, if you look at the budget prior to that, and this one's a little blurry, you'll notice revenue was 68.6 million, okay? Y'all have that on your sheet there in front of you.
Yeah.
That's the first sheet, and on the next one, revenue is 65 million, but that's after adding in the 1.197 million from fund balance.
So let's go back to that first page again. That's blank right there, you see it? Okay, and then when you go to the second page, you see what we're having to throw in right there in order to balance it.
That's how you balance it. So it's a swing there in each direction, plus moving off $1.845 million. So that's basically the only changes that have been made to the budget. And the rest of this was just some reminders for you and how we got here. I did want to share this with you because when I stood in front of you before, this is one thing we talked about, this was the local 5 mil share. And I said, in my calculation, I'll be honest with y'all, well, let me start with this. In FY '22, you'll see we increased each year all the way to FY '24. FY '25 happened because of business changes at Plank Share, okay? That's why there was a local 5 mil share reduction, okay? This year, moving into FY '26, my calculation is we would have been up over 8.5 million. But I stood in here and I said, I'm not sure why. Apparently the state made a miscalculation, okay? So that's helped us going into FY '26.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd be talking about another 1.5 to $2 million in the hole here, okay? Their miscalculation, I think Dr. Finch was talking to a superintendent when I told him, I'm not sure how this is, and they found out they made a miscalculation, but we were also informed that next year, they're not gonna go to what it should have been for FY '26. They're gonna jump it 2 years ahead. So I'm anticipating somewhere around $9 million for FY '27.
Which we were hoping to use that surplus for in
Yes.
preparation of paying that in FY '27, but we don't have that surplus anymore.
Does that make sense? Y'all have any questions about that? So we won't be able to anticipate being able to do what we were doing this year. We will obviously run a balanced budget, but we'll have to do that using fund reserves. And I don't, after going over the numbers with Mr. Johnson, I think we'll avoid having to have a tan, but if there's not changes to revenue in FY '27, we'll have to be looking at a tan.
Good question.
Yes, sir.
How much are we able to have our fund balance or reserves last year?
Chris, I'd have to see.
In '24, we added about $1.5 million, I believe. For '25, we don't know quite yet, because we haven't closed out the year.
But it will be something.
It should be an addition again this year.
Which will, that, even though it has that number on there, there'll be a little bit this year. For one thing, there was some taxes that were paid that we weren't expecting this year.
There may be a little surplus to help cover it.
That's exactly, so we can that's why I don't think, otherwise we would be dropping below this year. So it'll be the following year, it'll be FY '27 before that October comes and you're looking at how do you make payments.
And you may have already said this in a previous meeting, but with Georgia Power still being, with their tax contributions still being way down, why does our 5 mil share go up to 9 million without us adding a whole lot?
Dr. Goodwin, well,
revenue?
last year it actually went up. There were reevaluations last year. It wasn't quite the public,
It's not just
outcry.
public utilities, it's
Everything.
everything, because the value of your mill is calculated on public utilities
So all the
and
residential
real property.
increase.
Yes, every time you have these increases, it makes you, that's the double edge of the sword.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get the increased revenue, but you also have the increased payback that you gotta have to the state.
It sounds like
So you
we're gonna get 4 and have to get 3 back.
That's exactly what it
Now,
is every
and now
time. And that's
that
how our budgets are different from the county commission, is that local 5 mil share.
The state knows to take our own money
Yeah.
And what'll happen, Dr.
and
Goodwin,
redistribute it.
last year, y'all, we had $158 million in increased property valuations. 104 million of that was from reassessments. Whereas this year, 258 million was. And from what I understand it is because that came more reevaluations in rural areas, land and tracts and so forth. Like Dr. mentioned a lot of the neighborhoods, the residential, there had already been increases, but there hadn't been ongoing increases in some of the other tracks. And so it just seems like this year, I'm not a tax assessor, just my understanding is that they went and did revaluations in more places. So that's what led to it. You're right, though, I will say this, at some point it catches you because the property values are what they are, so it's going to be added to the mill. We will go up to probably next year, it may be 8.5, but the rationale is because it'll be based on a 2-year lag. So it'll be based on what happened this year. Does that make sense for FY '27?
And the only way we're gonna play catch up is when these industries get here.
Yeah.
And the type of industries that don't bear a drain on student services. Residential areas bear a drain on student services. I'm not advocating about putting in a new neighborhood, not putting in a neighborhood. I'm not here to argue one way or the other for that, okay? But when you have an industry that shows up with 30 employees and they churn out millions of dollars in tax revenue, they're not weighing in on your services, but they're almost handing over. And that's what Georgia Power used to do.
Yeah.
And so, the only other thing that I would advise and caution about is, when we had to go back and, move these items out of the general budget, okay? It restricts us from being able to make debt service payments, and it restricts us from executing our 5-year facility plan that we worked so hard to put together on the deferred maintenance. I'm talking about things like rooftops, okay? And we already have a project that we've already approved of over here at Hubbard. But there are 3 HVAC units that are still being run on a floppy disk, okay? A floppy disk. And if you don't know what a floppy disk looks like, I encourage you to go look it up, because it's one of the things from the 80s and 90s that's not here anymore. So we're running an HVAC unit from the 80s and 90s. And when that goes out, you're not gonna hear anybody complaining about property taxes anymore. You're gonna be hearing people complain about how the air conditioner's not working in August, okay? So it's gonna be a complaint one way or the other at the end of the day. And we are living on borrowed time in HVAC systems that were built and serviced in the 90s. In fact, they're not even serviced anymore, okay? And I can show you the floppy disk that you have to push the button on to get it to pop out, okay?
Those parts are discontinued and not available, not manufactured anymore.
When we're having to move this 1.845 million over into the general budget, we are restricting ourselves on catching our HVAC units up to the year 2025. So, just caution. All right, so, Mr. Rackley, you good? Anybody have any questions for Mr. Rackley? He and his team have done an excellent job with putting the numbers out there, putting them in plain language to people, being able to understand the funding piece, putting it on our website so it's plain to see to anyone that wants to go see it. And anybody that wants to come to our office and go through it on a paper version. They don't wanna go on it. They're easily capable of doing that. We don't run a for-profit business. We run a balanced budget, and we run it about as trimmed as we can. And so, with those expenditures and revenue in front of you, what we will ask is that the administration recommends the approval of the FY '26 budget.
All right, looking for a motion?
I make that motion that we approve the proposed FY 2026 budget.
Dr. Goodwin, second by Dr. Doctor. All those in favor? Any opposed? All unanimous. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Raven. All right, Mr. Chairman, the next item on here is the revision of the policy DIB financial reports. And this is the policy that was put on the agenda from the May meeting. It has sat for its 30 days. And this is the item that we have to update per the Department of Audits and Accounts, which is our state agency that does our auditing And, they send us, it's just like something coming from GSBA telling us you gotta update this, bylaw. DOAA is telling us that we have to update this bylaw. And so you've seen this from, the get-go, from the May meeting, and you can see the struck out areas and the, highlighted areas that will go in as changed items on this policy. So with that being said, the administration recommends approving the revisions to policy DIB, financial reports.
All right, got a motion?
Second.
Second.
Let's go.
Mr. Billback, second. All those in favor? Unanimous.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So next, we have financial report, so, Mr. Johnson will come up and give that for May 2025.
All right, we've got our May numbers up on the board here. One thing, Dr. Goodwin asked about how much we're gonna end up adding to our fund balance for the year. At this point, it's kinda hard to say, because we haven't finished the year. If you look at this, the actual column, you can see the revenue number is a lot bigger than the expense number. And that's because we've received almost all of our local tax revenue for the year. But we have not spent everything that we're gonna have to spend for this year. And we won't until probably the end of July know those numbers.
Best guess.
You know, like guessing.
Well, the same way we have unexpected revenue come in, you might have an unexpected expense.
That's true. That is very true. So it is,
That's fine, I'll give you a break on this. You don't expect it to be a negative at the end of the year.
I do not expect it, no,
That's good to hear.
no.
It'd be
I do
nice
not.
if we could make up this extra fund balance we have to pull from next year.
It would be nice, but
No
until the final numbers come in, it's you know, you never know until the final numbers are done.
And I don't have to do a math lesson for everyone, but if you use $1.1 million worth of fund balance, the following year, you have to at least earn that just to get you back to the starting point,
Yes.
okay? Just want everybody to understand that.
Math 101.
Don't want anybody to take it, taking for granted here, the
Things come up.
pluses and minuses, how they work.
That's a math teacher.
That's right. Couple of items I was going to point out, that the percentages are over in, general admin. That's where we pay for our Centegix program, the rapid, response. Alert system. That was covered with a grant, but it was not in our original, budget. So the money was was given to us for that system, but the expense was not in the budget. And then with transportation, that's where we paid for some buses. And we paid with buses this year out of general fund because we received state money for those buses. Not 100% for all of the buses, but the majority of the funding for the buses that we purchased was provided by the state. So that's why that number is over budget, basically. The next page would be our capital projects. We're rocking right along, receiving, I think in May, we received about $650,000, which is a little increase from the previous months. Hopefully that continues. The expenses there are predominantly for their college and career and the stadium improvement projects. So that's what is driving those expenses. There's a little bit of technology still coming out of SPLOS, and there's a little bit of textbooks coming out of SPLOS currently. Then the last page is our federal funds. And as always, we're in arrears with that, but we will get caught up as we reach the end of the school year. So, are there any questions?
I've been asked a question about some of our projects on stadium, that new scoreboard. I've been asked, was it paid for by East Bluff tax money or the Touchdown Club?
It's East Blossom.
East Bluff.
It's all East Bluff.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
East
what I
Blossom is
told
tax
her.
money.
Okay, that's
It's
what I
just not
told her.
property tax money.
Yeah, all of those projects are being funded technically by bond money,
Right.
but then that debt
It's
that we
East Bluff
repay
payment.
is East Bluff.
Yeah, that's what I
Correct.
told them. I just wanna make sure I was right.
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
All right.
Just stay right there in case, what we have here next now is a corrective action plan from the FY '23 audit, okay? We have auditors on campus right now that's doing the FY '24 audit, okay? Please understand that we're currently in the FY '25 budget. So this is gonna be a corrective action plan for 2 budget years away, okay? And if you really wanna get down to it, it's almost 3 budget years away because we're already talking about FY '26. We've sat in here and talked about it for how much? 45 minutes tonight, okay? So I say all that to say that, this corrective action plan it actually predates my tenure as superintendent, but the long and short of this is we have to put together an action plan that is approved by this board and then approved by state board, if that makes any sense, okay? And anytime there is a finding, we have to have an action plan that's put together that shows the corrections that we're gonna make. The board has to approve it, and then state has to approve it. And to put it in pretty much in a nutshell, we don't have a big enough financial and business office to separate all the duties that you have to separate out.
We've always had that.
And this has always been a problem for school districts the size of Monroe. And they constantly find us with, actions that say, well, you need to separate these duties out. And the only way you're gonna do that is to hire more people, okay? Just to satisfy the audit. And it's kind of catch-22. You wanna be able to have a clean audit, but you also wanna have a clean budget, okay? And you also wanna be responsible with, salaries that you're gonna do. Now, Mr. Rackley and Mr. Johnson have walked some steps towards that, and we've actually put an extra person in the business department. We didn't hire anybody else, we just relocated them from their office and duties and responsibilities over there, so we could at least speak towards the auditors a little bit and say, all right, we're making some headway towards that. Chris, did I steal everything, or is that it?
What I was gonna basically explain is there are 3 findings that we had to address. One of them is financial in nature, the other 2 are federal compliance issues. Those, like Dr. Finch said, predate him. It actually goes back to FY '22.
And it's CARES Act money.
And it was during the COVID issue, one of the federal findings had to do with the way meals were counted. And there was a lot of confusion coming from the Department of Education and the boards, to the boards, as far as how to count meals to be reimbursed. Well, the auditors came in and they didn't like the way we did it, so they issued a finding in FY '22. It got carried over to FY '23 because of the lag in time for the audit, we didn't get corrective action quick enough to prevent it in '23. Hopefully, in '24, the 2 federal findings will roll off. The second one had to do with documentation. were we fighting against COVID, we've had a complete turnover in our school nutrition department. And they just couldn't find a lot of the things that the previous administration in school nutrition had done or not done. They couldn't find the forms that they needed to give to the auditors, which resulted in a finding. All of that has been corrected and addressed going forward. Those should not be an issue. The financial statement findings, there were a lot of little bullet points in the finding that had previously been what they consider management letter comments. Well, the Department of Audit is getting away from issuing management letter comments and just putting everything in a finding. So they rolled all of those into a finding regarding our procedures. We are addressing, like Dr. Finch said, some of the procedures. Some of these procedures even go down to the school bookkeeping level. We have started having school bookkeeper meetings where I have told the school bookkeepers what the auditors are going to be looking for as far as documentation, sign-offs, and approvals to mitigate the lack of staff, basically. There is a way in the audit world of having what they call mitigating controls. That we know we don't have enough personnel to divide up the procedures properly, but we can have mitigating controls such as sign-offs and things like that. And we're just making sure that everybody knows what they have to do to prevent this from happening in the future.
Couple of things, I like what you're saying on, basically, I know we got a really good, person over nutrition now. I think he's doing a
Right.
great job.
Yes.
I've seen some stuff he's doing, I'm really liking what he's doing, he's doing a great job. Second thing I like is what you're saying is, some of the findings, you're redistributing some of the jobs to different people, so we don't have to hire more people.
Correct.
And increase the cost for the taxpayers.
Correct.
So, thank you.
So some of that we have to add front is that, you know, it used to just simply be comments, now they've turned them into findings. And we're responsible for some of this that's gone on, but some of this stuff, our hands are kind of tied on too. But at the end of the day, we have the correction action plan that is there, and we're gonna execute it, and hopefully we'll start walking ourselves to a more cleaner audit. But again, we're still waiting on the FY '24 audit to come back to us while we're finishing up the FY '25 budget, and we're planning the FY '26.
Yeah, I tell people this is the time of year where I get to operate in 3 different fiscal years all at the same time. We're being audited for '24, we're operating '25 and planning '26. So
Well, that's good, I appreciate it, and I think they're minimal findings in my eyes, but I think it's easily corrected also, so that's
Yes.
good. So, look for a motion to approve the correction plan for FY '23.
So moved.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
A second. All those in favor? Thank you.
I also need each of you to sign
Yes,
this,
sir.
so I can send it to the Georgia Department of
Good.
Education.
My name is spelled wrong.
I'm sorry, that's my fault.
You'll take corrective action.
I'm sorry for what it's supposed to be.
You can correct it when it gets to you. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, next we have facilities and grants, so I'll have Mr. Flanders come up and give that report.
Good evening, board members. College and Career Cabinet Freshman Campus Building is almost here. It's almost in our hands. It's supposed to be handed over later this week. We have the 100% approval from the state fire marshal. We have a certificate of occupancy on the building. And the county health inspection is going to occurred the other day. We're waiting on the results back from that. The architect's completed his punch list, and so we're ready to rock and roll. Every parish is working on corrected everything from the punch list, and the classroom and office furniture will start getting delivered next week. So we're really excited about, having that project behind us and having it completed. I think it's gonna be a great asset for our school system. Football field house and stadium improvements. The stadium is near completion. The section stand work, still in process. The siding for the gables up on the, old, visitor field house area is gonna be taken care of, soon as it's come in now. And, the slab's been poured and the steel's starting to go up, so we're really excited about that. So, the first bit of steel going up this week. TG Scott Drive improvements, we're still in the same spot on that. We put out a request for proposals, it's been advertised in the newspaper. Proposals are due back next week, on Wednesday. So hopefully we'll have a contract to bring back to the board in July. So we're excited about that opportunity.
And just to add to that, just for a second, the TG Scott Drive improvements, the part that's on our property, we control the roadway and the work that goes on that. But there may have to be some Thornton Road decel, turn lanes and stuff like that, which we don't control. So we have to have an intergovernmental agreement with the county in order to account for improving our driveway, and they may have to do some stuff to improve their roadway as well. So that's kind of held it up too, because there's civil drawings that go along with that. So I know we've been kind of talking about that, and in a perfect way, we were gonna have that ready for August 1st, but that's not looking to be the case. But just like Mr. Flanders said, they will be able to work on that project while school has even started. And then if you have to institute that new traffic plan during the middle of the school year, we'll just do it then.
Thank you, Dr. Finch. Hubbard Elementary, the rock's been removed off the roof. TPO recovery board are arriving, this week, next week, and the grade side has begun. So if you ride out that way, you can see where they have cleaned out the courtyard, getting ready to lay drain in there, and then put sod back over the top of it. So, they were working this morning on the other side of the school, clearing that area out so it can be smoothed over and drain put in so we can get rid of those terrible ruts that we had out there. So that's gonna be, fixed and much better, runoff. Security and cyber school, or the safe schools and cybersecurity grant, we're in a holding pattern there. We have completed what we can complete for this fiscal year. We have to wait for the fiscal year to turn over, and then we'll be able to take care of the next set of items on that grant. So, moving on. And then I have some updated photos for you. This is sort of an aerial of the college and career academy freshman campus building. You can kind of see that looking back towards the high school on that one.
Always remember the college career academy side is closest to the main campus, and the freshman campus portion is closest to the Fine Arts Center. Okay.
Here is a look that I put in here from the daytime. It's a little bit dated, but you can kind of see it from the daytime. But the next picture shows you what it looks like at night. That picture was taken right before graduation. They poured the slab 2 days before graduation. That picture was taken 2 in the morning, and it kind of shows the finished product. And we're really proud of what the school looks like. I think this is going to be a great asset, as we mentioned earlier. This is on the entryway into the building. On our great campus, we have a terrazzo floor that's been poured and set with the Mary Parsons High School logo and slogan on it, Committed Excellence. So we're very excited about having that there. Here's a look of that night where they were pouring the foundation, setting it.
This is for the field house.
For the field house. And you see down on that side where they're pouring the concrete, you can see the chairs up there on the field where it's set up for graduation. So you're looking kind of back from that side, but you can see where that work's progressed there as well.
Again, all these projects are funded through East Plus, which is sales tax money, which when you live on I-75, majority of that comes from people outside of our district. So, great way to do capital outlay with that. So, we're really excited. All right, now any questions for Mr. Flanders? Then we'll move to the next item, which is the selection of the architect for the new MPHS campus. And this is one of the first dominoes that you have to knock down in order to start this process. And when you select an architect, it typically takes, between working with the architect and the engineers, it takes about a year just to plan a high school. It doesn't take a year to plan a college career academy in the freshman campus or a field house, but for a full-fledged high school, it's gonna take over a year. And so this is what we have to start this process in order to have an opportunity for 2028 or 2029 to exist. So I know it's 2025, but this is the first step that you have to take in doing this. And we interviewed and screened and scored 3 firms. And we had PBK out of Griffin. They're really out of Dallas, but they have an office in Griffin. And then we had SRJ Architects that's out of Albany. And we have SP Design, which is out of Macon. And all 3 of them gave us concept drawings, and they did presentations. They gave us a fee sheet. And after all the scoring was done, we had one firm that won out, and it was SP Design Group out of Macon. And that's why we're recommending them to be the architect for the new high school.
All right. Looking for approval for SP Design. Got a motion? And a second? Doster, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. And then Mr. Flanders is also gonna talking about this process. This kind of goes hand in hand with what we're trying to accomplish on the 5-year facility plan and specifically towards this new campus. And so I'll let Mr. Flanders talk through this because you have to adopt a resolution that kind of goes along with using the state support system for 5-year facility plans.
As Dr. Finch said, this is a lengthy process to get the funding secured for a new school and to go through the process of getting the plans and taking construction. It's definitely a multi-year process. As part of that, we have to adopt a 5-year facility plan with the state, and ours is due to come up next year. So next year, we're gonna put in for a new 5-year facility plan, and part of that process is to adopt this resolution for technical assistance. And so, resolution basically states that our plan is going to expire next year, and that since we have to do that, we're asking for the state to send a team here to review our plan and make sure that it's good, which they do almost every time. They can look at our schools, they can see our deferred maintenance, they can see our crowding numbers, and they're gonna go ahead and take care of this. And so they're just asking that we adopt this resolution.
And so that's why we began working on our local 5-year facility plan, so the state would know exactly what we were trying to accomplish, so they could budget what it took in order to give us the state funding that we need. So a lot of times, a lot of times you'll hear us using interchangeably 5-year facility plan. Sometimes the state looks at theirs a little bit differently than the way ours is. Ours is a little more fluid, and it kind of moves and changes and pivots and stuff. Theirs we kind of put in a permanent place so they can use that alerts them that we need to be securing funding from the state. And this is what makes it cheaper locally to use it. And remember, Mary Persons High School is the oldest facility that we still have online that has students in it, which means since it's the oldest, it gets the highest state funding. So it kind of, and we're moving to put it on land that this board purchased probably in 2014 or 15. It was when we were trying to get the land ready for the Fine Arts Center. So this is land that's already owned, and it's replacing a building that has the highest replacement value. Okay, sorry.
I move that we adopt a resolution to request technical assistance from the state for our development of our 5-year facility plan.
A second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
I have a question.
No, I'm sorry, discussion, I'm sorry.
When we met for the 5-year plan, are we gonna meet any more to talk about that?
We will do that at our next scheduled work session.
Okay.
But if we want to do it earlier than that, then we'll make up a work session and, or institute a new work session. But we typically just reserve it for that, to come back and review it and revisit it.
Any other questions? All right, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, we're coming up on these last 3 items on the agenda, and I will have Ms. Rackley come to the podium. And this is an update to the bylaws that govern our College and Career Academy. And now that we have more of a viable building in place, and we have a program in place, and more importantly, we have a CEO in place, we allowed Ms. Rackley to go through and find redundant items that were no longer needed, and items that were needed. And so she has put her expertise into the bylaws now, and she's gonna walk y'all through these right now, and at the end, we'll ask for an approval of these updates to the bylaws.
Okay, so the College and Career Academy Board of Directors operates on sort of the fiscal budget cycle, and so we're getting ready for a new year with CCA Board of Directors, and so it was good timing to be able to kind of go through these along with the board members and their terms. So we're starting with the bylaws. The original bylaws were sort of those that are reflected from the template from the General College and Career Academy Network recommendation. And so some of the things that I did was go through and just really look at the structure that exists here and what fits, and then made some recommendations in terms of amendments to those, and tried to make it easy for you to see what was changed and striking through things that needed to be removed, and then adding in red so that you could kind of see what those changes were. And these went through being approved by the CCA board first in May on the 20th, and then now pending your approval will become official. So the first that I wanted to point out is just on page, if you begin on page 3, with the changes to some of the board members and their terms, the representatives themselves. So rather than 4 secondary representatives, that has been amended to 3, because we did have Crawford represented because they were part of the MOU with us. That really did not come to fruition. And so that verbiage has been removed several times throughout. Also, I never officially came on the board. It was still Dr. Brown, but that was, at this point, has been a voting position, and really needs to be more just like Dr. Finch makes recommendations to you all as a board, rather than him serving as a voting member. The same would be true of the CCA board.
And just let me clarify one thing to make board members remember this. When we started this process, this was a joint effort between Monroe County and Crawford County. They couldn't build it into their master schedule or had enough student interest to come over to our College and Career Academy, which makes sense, okay? They're a little bit further away from us. They'd have to travel up 42 every day in order to get here. They weren't running a bus to us, we weren't running a bus to them. So it's almost like that partnership just kind of fell off. And in fact, we don't get penalized or anything about it. We still get all the grant money. In fact, Ms. Rackley will probably confirm what I'm about to say. They don't even reward that effort anymore, and they don't really expect people to come to the grant with additional counties on their.
They do still have it in right now, but there have been conversations previously, and now I brought it back up. Actually, I served on a panel recently for the College and Career Academy grant, and it's a disadvantage for rural districts like us because we're so far apart geographically and trying to establish partnership. So systems do it because you get an additional point on the grant application, but then you want to be a good steward of your resource, and you want to, do what you promised to do, and so you make good effort to be able to bring these partnerships to fruition. But the reality is that for the student from Crawford County to be able to participate with the programs in ours, they really have to leave their district near about to fully immerse.
Like maybe 2 or 3 classes in their schedule every day in order to allow for the travel time.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have enough student interest, so we're just kind of removing that from our bylaws because it's just not going. It's not going to happen. It's not needed.
Right. And so you'll see that reflected several times throughout, just in having not only Crawford County, but it was written in that, any that were entered into an MOU with us would also have representation. And that's just not necessary at this point unless it comes to a time where we have a lot of participation from another district. And so all of that verbiage has been removed. That allowed for 6 members representing industry rather than 5, and also removed the verbiage about those other MOU districts having their chamber and their development authority for representation on the board. Okay, on the next page, on page 4, initially when members rolled off, they had to wait a 2-year period before they could come back on. And so in an effort to just kind of not pin ourselves into something that's unnecessary, if somebody comes off the board and for good reason needs to come back on because of a collaborative project or just an excitement about being a part of the College and Career Academy, if that's a good fit, we don't want to lock them out from being able to do so longer than necessary. And so there also is an option of serving an additional year or second term for continuity or collaboration, and I'll use Oglethorpe Power as an example. So we've really begun momentum with partnership with them and some things that we would like to implement. So I certainly wouldn't want to remove that representation from the board. And so that's just an example of why that alteration is necessary. Okay, page 6 is a simple one, just making it reflective of Open Meetings Act requirements and aligned with the Board of Education in terms of the agenda being posted 24 hours in advance. And also, if you see there on number 5, adding in, the reality of our structure is that I don't really report to the Board of Directors as Assistant Superintendent and CEO. I report to Dr. Finch and am a part of the school system, and so they can provide recommendations to him in that regard, but not really the hiring and firing of this position. And so that was a recommendation for amendment as well. And then again, number 7, on page 7, excuse me, throughout the ex officio membership, there was a lot of verbiage about those neighboring districts. And so that has been amended to be Mary Persons High School and the College and Career Academy. Okay, on page 8, I amended the term for the officers to be 2 years rather than just 1. Just for, again, continuity purposes and being able to continue the momentum when you begin initiatives and things like that. And then at the bottom of page 8, removing the chairman from being able to enter contracts and amended the CEO reports, just that verbiage there. Again, reporting to the superintendent, but with regard to the chairman, they really don't, none of the officers in reality should have the authority to enter contracts on behalf of the College and Career Academy, and ultimately that falls under the Board of Education. So that just really wasn't the best verbiage. And then on page 9, the position of treasurer being removed because the funds are handled through the school system. And on page 11, again, the same type of things, those officers not being able to enter contracts, not being authorized to sign checks, or, you know, use different financial institutions than those by Monroe County School System. And then the final piece was just removing the CCA board from the indemnification. Everything falls under the policies and procedures of Monroe County Board of Education. Any questions about any of those?
Are there any term limits?
There are, but it allows for, let me not just quote it off the top of my head. There are term limits, but they still are able to go for a second term of an additional year or a full additional term as needed for, again, that continuity or intense collaboration with a particular industry.
I'd be concerned about the term limits per se on that board for there. When I say would be concerned about it is, you have somebody good that's gonna serve, or you're gonna have plenty of good people to serve on there. And then they term out, it's possible that you might run out of people, volunteers to serve, is what I'm getting at. So, having term limits on a small little board like that might be problematic. I'd say revisit that.
Yeah, and if that does become an issue, then certainly we'll put that before the CCA board and also before you guys to, you know, amend those again as needed.
I love the term limit in DC and everywhere else, but you know, the small county, small community sometimes it can be difficult to fill positions when, you know, there's not
absolutely
enough
agree.
volunteers.
And when you get good board members that,
Right.
you know, are excited about the progress that you're making, you really do wanna maintain them on the board. So that definitely could be something in the future that,
Yeah.
that I ask for in terms of a recommendation.
I'm glad to see you got Oglethorpe Power in there. I think they're gonna be a very, very good contributor, here in this county. I know we were talking about taxes earlier. They're gonna be a very good contributor, I think, so, thank you.
All right, so with that being said, administration recommends the approval of these amendments to the MCC or MCCCA bylaws as presented.
Make that motion.
Second.
Motion and second, all those in favor? Unanimous.
All right,
Thank you.
and then next, coming from Ms. Rackley, are the membership terms that we have presented. We have to approve the new names that are on there and the names that are moving forward on there. So it's our time to do that, so Ms. Rackley,
Okay.
go through
And
that.
just to refresh your memory, because you may or may not remember from when they initially were on, those that are rolling off, so Dr. Tetravian Jackson from Central Georgia Tech, it was time for her to roll off. Tiffany Andrews, had to resign due to a change in her job responsibilities. Karen Knight was the representative from Crawford County, so that roll-off was timely for us. Dr. Brown previously serving in this role, and again, that was a voting member at that point. And then Carrie Trapnell, with the hospital is rolling off as well. And so now, some of these members that are on here before you were already on the board, but those who are new, Casey Fleckenstein, will be representing the hospital. Katie Hankinson will be representing secondary, so she's our work-based learning and youth apprenticeship coordinator, a vital part of a college and career academy, and so I think it's important for her to be involved. Rachel Linton has agreed to serve as board chair. The board nominated her and she agreed, and they voted on that. I will become ex officio, and Mona Spear is coming on. She's the CEO for Spear Electric, and they hire an abundance of college and career academy students, youth apprenticeship students, and so that's a great partnership to have. Jackie Turner will be coming on from Central Georgia Tech to kind of take the place of Dr. Jackson, and Joyce White with the Development Authority will be coming on as well. So, before I make the recommendation, any questions about any of the board members? All right.
All right, so hearing none, administration recommends the approval of the MCCCA board members and terms as presented in this document.
So moved.
Motion? And a second. All those in favor? All right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Ms. Rackett. All right, next up, we got board policy BBBE, which is, our board member compensation and expenses.
And so, just as a summary on this, discussion about this agenda item was requested by Ms. Eva Bilderback, who's our District 7 board member, and so we'll take this time for our board members to open this up for discussion.
Any discussion? You wanna start, Ms. Bilderback?
Well, we need to clarify what it means because we don't know what meetings it's talking about or what special events it's talking about. So as a board, we need to either decide and put something in writing so that it can be clarified because it's not clear.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we can read it, right here, it'll be good.
anybody have any ideas? Ms. Battle?
As far as the clarification, I think that if it's an event that we're, scheduled to go to, and it takes up more than half of your day, there should be compensation for that.
Okay. Well, let me read it. I think you got it right here, Vince. Board members shall be paid $75 per diem for attendance at regular and call board meetings, and $25 for other committee meetings and special meetings. Board shall designate any special meetings for which members are to be compensated. Of course, in the second half of that, board members shall be reimbursed for travel inside and outside the state, and that's talking about reimbursement. So, we really gonna have to define whether, what your committee meetings and special meetings are. So as a board, we're gonna need to probably get some of that down, and and we got our lawyer here, I'm assuming that, as long as we don't change the amount, we don't have to go to the state to make any offerings. Yes, sir, absolutely. If you're aware of any details, and you tell me.
Well, I don't wanna speak out of turn on that, approaching the state as far as changing the amounts, but I don't think that we would have to do that. I think a practical way to handle this may be to come up with a regulation to be associated with this policy, since it's easier to amend a regulation, than it is to amend the policy, and we could have BBE, whatever the descriptor is, -R1, which would define what a special meeting.
So we've got to define it.
Provide examples. Yes, sir. I think some additional definitions could come into play through a regulation rather than actually in this policy. Because it may be year to year requirements vary as far as what special meetings might be appropriate.
Does anybody want to discuss further, or do y'all want to put some things in an email and we can discuss it afterwards with just an email and conversation, or do you want to further discuss it here? Because we got to basically come up with what we're going to call committee meeting and a special meeting.
We've done a
And we're
good
gonna define
job of
those.
looking at what other systems have done in terms
Yep.
of compensation. Why don't we look at some other systems' policies and see if they define special meetings or anything outside the regular board meeting?
Right.
Well, if you're getting paid $500 or $600, you're not gonna need a special meeting. But, you know, when we're,
Say what?
I said that most boards are getting paid $500 to $600.
She said most folks most of them get paid by the month, and so they're not getting paid by,
You
you
know,
know,
Yeah.
so.
a la carte meetings
special
or just
meetings.
little separate meetings.
There's some that are getting paid a little different. So, I mean, we can look at that, regardless. I mean, I would recommend all the board members, they can just, if y'all want to email me, or we can discuss it, what's gonna constitute a committee meeting or special meeting. Because committee meetings is, to me, is, if we're gonna make a committee just do something, that's
That's a committee.
a committee meeting. And I don't think we've ever had to do that for anything. I don't see a reason for it.
What, Alicia, what are some of the things that we have
Yep, no, special meeting, I'm
had to
talking about committee meeting.
volunteer to come up here to be a part of? You know, like the, community, you know, where you have the stakeholders and,
The superintendent parent advisory,
right. I mean, we have things that some of us
Done
have
in the
to,
past.
at least 3 or 4 of us have to volunteer to come to. And even if it's an hour, 2 hours, I mean, we're driving up here and taking our time, and
Well, I also, my thing is, and this is just me speaking, some things that we do is more of a requirement, some things are not required of us. Do we wanna get paid for the $25 for everything we go to that's not required of us? It's sort of like graduation. I mean, we don't have to go to graduation. I think most of us, we enjoy it, we like to do it.
it's
I mean,
been required, pretty much.
we
It has been a requirement.
It's expected of board
Right.
members, it's not
Yeah.
It is
required.
expected.
right, it's expected of us, but like say, do we want to say, hey, we're gonna get paid $25 to go to graduation? I mean, so we're gonna have to define what those special meetings and committee meetings are gonna be. Whether it's, we are meeting up to do something, or is it an actual committee meeting that we're forming for a certain item or a certain task? So I think we need to kind of discuss that and put that together and do it,
I mean, one that just kind of, it could be brought up as an example, a work session, but it also falls on the same day that you're usually doing a board meeting, so you go ahead and get paid for that board meeting. Are we saying that when you come in for the work session, whether it starts at 12 or 12:30, or sometimes we start them at 4:30, but if you come to that, is that considered like a special session? I would probably argue that it is.
Yes.
And then the board meeting is
That's what required.
the meeting, that's right. But
I get that.
some our trainings, some of those are 5-year facility plans. Some of those are working on the, continuous improvement plan. Some of those are different things, so, you know, I would probably argue that that kind of behaves like a committee meeting, so to speak, like a work session.
So
And I
once
would
we
argue
just
that you
make a
probably
list
could do
and-
that.
Yeah,
And, you know, and then we can narrow it down.
that'd be
Well,
fine.
I'll tell you what, in order to avoid y'all working on an email that wouldn't necessarily be out in public, how about our administration work on getting a list together?
Yeah,
And
'cause
we
she
kind of put
knows
that stuff,
everything we have to
that
attend.
stuff out there, and then we could do it in a work session to decide, okay, which ones are gonna qualify, which ones are not gonna qualify, and then whatever we decide on from there, because a work session is an open meeting, okay? But I wouldn't want y'all coming up with, on a list on an email or anything like that, because
That's
it
fine,
may
yeah.
not, pass muster that way.
Am I correct that the only thing we have to run by the legislature is if we change our pay? Like
The
this,
amount,
this
yeah.
wasn't half.
So if we were to take $25 and you were to go to $50, you know, we'd have to get approval for that, I'm sure.
From the legislature?
Yes.
Yeah.
Change of policy?
No, change the dollar.
The dollar
Change
amount,
it.
so dollar, just dollar amount. So if we're, as long as we don't change the dollar amount, we stick
Right.
within our policy, we don't have to get any approval from the legislator.
Oh,
The policy just has to be, reviewed and posted on
a
assembly.
letter added to it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
We can do that. All right, let's go forward with,
Thank you.
with that, please.
We'll work with the administration on the best.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right, so, Mr. Chairman, that gets us to, not yet, GSBA Summer Conference update. And so this is the time where we allow our board members who attended GSBA to have any share outs. And that's part of your duty and responsibility is to go to GSBA and participate in the professional learning there. But not only that, but bring back some of the items, so.
Ms. Miller, would you like to start us off?
Well, Thursday was, Andrew, sorry about this, it was lawyers, and it was boring. It was all about policies, and, we've got a lot of stuff coming down in the next couple years that we have to, like cell phone policy, and we have to come up with, you know, what we want to do at the schools, and then we have to come up with a policy, and then we have to send it in to the state, and then there's gonna be a social media policy, and they're coming up with a youth violence prevention club that goes in effect in January of 2027. So there was a lot of policies and a lot to, you couldn't even write it all down. So I know Priscilla and I were taking pictures because it was hard to keep up, but it's always interesting and to find out all the changes that are coming down the pipe. It's a lot, but we appreciate the opportunity to go and keep up for our children, and thank you.
I went to 2 breakout sessions, and the one that really touched me the most was the one about amplifying the student voice, having a student representative on the Board of Education. And one school, this was in Decatur schools, they start with a junior in high school, and they prepare them with all of the information, the notes and all of that. They run, they have a special group, and then they run for a seat. If that student is chosen, they sit with the board for their senior year, and they're a voting member on the Board of Education. And they said that their 5-year plan focuses on students, and it makes the students feel included in the governmental procedures with the board, and they are stakeholders. The 10th graders serve as apprentices to prepare them for their junior year, and then, of course, the senior representative. Their school has 6,000 students, so they have 2 representatives. But smaller systems, which they pointed out, there are some small systems, they have 1 representative. And then the other breakout session I went to was about students that are sick. One school has a clinic in their school. They have a nurse practitioner, that's there. They have the room set up so that the student can come in, or teacher or parent, whatever, could come in and they receive clinical services just as they would if they had to stay out of school. That way the student or teacher does not miss any school time unless they're really sick, they have a fever, or they're exhibiting some other type of illness. So that was really interesting to me because theirs is at their elementary school, but they're getting ready to, I guess per se, put one in their middle schools so that it will be an ongoing thing throughout their system. So those were the two things that really, really caught me. You know, I was really interested in those. And as Ms. Bilderbett said, we got to do a lot of work because they're going to have a student advocacy specialist who's to be paid by federal funds through reimbursement grants. And this is subject to approval by the General Assembly. So that's coming down the pike as well. So it's going to be a lot of things that they're expecting the boards of education to do within the next 2 years.
Dr. Dobson?
And I want to make some prints to share some of those, like she said, we took pictures of some of the slides that were up there because there was so much information presented. Those are my new enrollment procedures, and the deadlines are going to be very, you're going to be really aware of the deadlines for various things. So our purpose is to make the best decisions and to advocate for our students. And remember that purpose outweighs politics. And the main thing is you've got to believe in public education. That if we're going to be on board of education, we have to believe in public education and make all of our decisions for the best of the students. They talk about the human impact of the board members, leading with purpose, but advocating with heart, and keeping students at the center of every decision we make. And so our legacy won't be test scores, it'll be the people our students become. And we've talked about that before in here. They're the people that want them to be productive citizens, whatever. Never make a policy without thinking about how it affects the kids. I thought that was important. And remember, every decision we make affects people. You need to keep that in the forefront.
Thank you.
And I want to add one more thing. I think our jackets were our lucky charms because 3 of the Monroe County board members won prizes. Dr. Doster won a prize, Mrs. Bilderbeck won a prize, and I won a prize. So I think our jackets were our lucky
My
charms.
only regret is that before you left, I didn't think about taking a picture of all 5 of us with our jackets because we looked so sharp. And people commented about that.
Yeah, people walk by.
People commented about it.
Well, I'll tell you, there's jackets and everything and got done, and so Ms. Deidre Powers, thank you very much. You put that together very well, Dr. Finch, so thank you very much.
That was Ms. Powers.
I know, she did a great job. Ms. Hoots?
Well, we've got to start being like Dublin and wearing something.
No, we don't know,
And
we don't
being
do that.
cheerleaders.
Oh, and
And all.
we need to take our bulldog
Yeah,
mascot.
they had a mascot.
They
a
have
bobcat.
mascot.
A bobcat.
Yeah, I can see you wearing a bulldog.
I know.
Yep.
That'd be you.
I went to the cell phone breakout session, and that one ran way over time because it was so popular. It was just standing room only in the room. And the Marietta school system was the one that did the year trial last year. What's that?
With middle school, wasn't it?
Well, they kind of revamped everything, starting elementary, middle, and high school. And I took a ton of notes to go over everything, but basically, it just was outstanding. I mean, any concern that anybody has about anything was just so overshadowed by everything that was positive, things that you couldn't even imagine that came from the kids, getting along better, not asking to go to the bathroom as much because they're not texting with each other and making eye contact,
lunchroom, people were talking with each other more, even paying attention more in their after-school athletics, because they just weren't kind of amped up by the technology all day. It was just amazing, so I think there's
So what-
exciting things to come.
Grades improved?
What did Mary?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They're coming up with they did a study with CHOA and Emory School of Education, and they're gonna be coming out with all that data, and there's test scores improving, and they kind of let it slip a little bit, about around 30%, that they saw a lot of grades and test scores. I mean, crazy,
Big deal.
so much more.
What did they do? What was their policy?
So they have like these pouches that have locks, and you can't, I mean, the only way that you can do anything is cut them. But they got them just for the middle school. They ended up not doing it with the elementary or high school. The elementary, they just went with the shoe organizer system, and the high school, they kind of gave them a chance to, kind of see if they don't break like a certain number of being sent to turn in the cell phone and only their parents being able to come retrieve it. If they don't go past a certain number of infractions, then they don't have to go to those pouches.
But Dr. Goodman, to answer your question, there is an associated price that goes along with that, so.
Yes.
I know there's.
Always, so it's what you call an unfunded mandate right here.
Yes.
Yeah. Or we're not just, hey, look, just leave them at home, that's it. Don't even bring
They
them
said
in.
that
They'll do
started
that, I'm
happening,
sure.
yeah.
Well, that's what you just said, the kids just started leaving them at home
They
because
did, because they can't.
what was the use of bringing them, so. I'll tell you, I had, I actually learned a little bit there. It's pretty good, so I was a delegate there, believe it or not.
Did you yell at Frisbee?
Yeah, the GSBA has a group of agenda items that they promote every year. As long as I've been on this board, we send a delegate, and I've really never paid much attention to it and how the process works. But the things that they vote for and they promote, as a whole, I just looked around the room and, everybody just said yes to everything. I found that very odd. And there's some things I've started reading on it, and I would say that I wouldn't necessarily agree with all of them, okay? Which, we're supposed to take that and discuss it as a board, and our delegate goes up there and votes whatever the majority of the board has asked them to go and do. That's never happened, for us, and I think, going forward, I definitely wanna make sure that happens, so we all are more engaged.
Was members of the.
Oh, no, they're on the agenda items, they voted on them as blocks, there's about
Right.
12 or 15, maybe 20 items that the GSB says, this is what, GSBA is also a lobbyist group to our state house, obviously. They've got about $10 million in the budget to go and lobby, and they do that on school behalf, on the school's behalf. And I had a talk with Miss Valerie Wilson, and asked her that, did she think that 100% of all the people that paid into, as a member of Georgia School Board Association, agreed with 100% of everything she had there on that agenda. Obviously, the answer is no, but nobody said, hey, I'd like to vote differently on this. Because there's a few things on there I think our board would actually vote differently on. I just don't see it happening, or no, I'll put it this way, if we agreed on every single thing, I don't think our constituents would be very happy and say, hey, well, we're not having discussions, we're not looking at things objectively. So I just found that odd that there's some things on there I think we as a board would discuss and go over a lot more, and when we go up there to vote, we'd actually have a more pronounced and direct vote. So.
I was on a governance committee, probably a month and a half before we went to Savannah. And they had people that sent in things that they wanted to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that committee voted whether to change them or not. So if there's anything we want to change, we have to submit it, and it gets voted on. And
it's put on their agenda, yeah.
one school submitted 3 or 4 things and they were voted down.
Yeah, so, but on top of that's what I'm getting at is, it's on their agenda. You put the things that are on their agenda, you can actually stand up and pull out and vote on and ask, you know, and vote on those things. Because if we as a board don't agree with it, or say, hey, we'd like to do something, say something different on this one item, then our delegate needs to be doing that. I just found it odd that everybody 100% agreed on everything up there. So that was
Well, last
very
year,
bureaucratic of them. So,
when I was the delegate, there was a lot of people disagreed on I think it was 3 of those items. They had a big discussion.
yeah.
And I told, Mr. Pippin that I didn't even understand what they were talking about. So I couldn't vote because I didn't understand
Right.
what the big argument was all about. So, but that was one time I remember that they voted, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of them were against
When I served as
something.
delegate, same thing, same experience you had. There was a lot of discussion and
Yeah.
arguing.
They're
Apparently my-
probably sending us that stuff and those little things from GSBA. We just have to read them and.
So, yeah, so I found out that, their agenda and their line items for us to discuss is generally sent out in January. So those things that come out, we need to pay attention to those, and actually we need to have a discussion on those and find out what our board would like to support or not support. Our delegate actually goes and does that voting for us, so on our behalf. That's the proper way to do it. So that's what I learned, is just saying that I think we need to pay attention a little bit more. I know I do on those line items, so I think it'd be good for us to do that, so. Thank you very much, y'all.
Mr. Chairman, and the only thing that we'll do now is ask for, that we enter into executive session to discuss personnel.
All right,
We go into executive session for discussion of personnel.
all right, motion,
Second.
second, by Mr. Bowden. All those in favor?
Have a speak, Jim.
Thank y'all. Yes, sir.
I'm just waiting for the cash. Give it just a second. I can talk more later. Judy said she's going to let Linda. She said, I'm not your shoe. I'm going out. I said, go. It's a.
We're good.
All right, we're out of executive session. And
All right.
Dr. Finch, we got some.
Yes, so, Mr. Rackler?
Yes, sir. Sorry, Mr. Rath.
Falling down.
Thank you, Board. Administration recommends approval of the personnel actions as presented during executive session.
All right,
I move we approve the personal actions on the blue sheet.
got a motion?
Second.
Julie seconds. All those in favor?
Thank you, Board.
All
All right, Mr. Chairman, reminders, your next regularly scheduled board meeting is on July 8th. Remember, this meeting sometimes toggles around our Gale meeting for our administration, but the way that it's fallen this year, we can actually have it on the second Tuesday instead of the third Tuesday. So it'll be on the regularly scheduled. Also, on that day, and I've got to meet with admin on this, we want to schedule a walkthrough on the CCA and the freshman campus before then. So we would be looking to ask for y'all, and I'll confirm this with everyone, we'll be looking to ask for y'all to come in on this at 4:30 on that day. Do the walkthrough and then come in and do the 5:30 meeting, okay? Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, and you got a reminder?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna, actually, I just had a compliment. I know, I had some discussion a little bit with Mr. Flanders and you about, obviously saving money and things like that, and it was insurance. And I was gonna tell you that there was an insurance guy that had said that Mr. Flanders, Dr. Finch, was more than a pleasure to work with, and y'all were, you were very, forthcoming with all the details, all the information. Anyway, he said you were very save money and do those kinds of things, I'm glad you're doing it, so I appreciate that very much. So thank you.
All right.
All right, well,
Make a motion to adjourn.
motion by tradition, fill it back. Second by Mr. Jenkins, all those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank all of y'all, appreciate it.